do you think this shit is gonna snap back to normal?
But this is why I don't have a lot of love and affection for most Americans. It's like we are a nation built upon laws, and we inherit our laws from the United Kingdom. That's why I keep calling the founding fathers British rebels. Like my jokes always have something to them. But what I mean by that is that the Magna Carta has this thing in it called the tragedy of the commons.
Yeah.
Meaning that the lords of the land
over here.
We out over here. I got you. I know we hot, but I'm gonna get on my. I'm gonna step from behind the podium after this. It's like if you want to call yourself an American, you have to understand that you live by laws, and the spirit of the law is what really dictates our court systems. It really dictates how we feel about each other, how we treat each other, more so how we get our money from each other. But in the Magna Carta, there is a tragedy of the commons because the common people needed to use the land to get their resources. But what has happened in America is because we have convinced somebody, though, like, I'll give you a check if you're willing to fuck him over. And I'll give you a bigger check if you're willing to fuck him over twice. And people go, okay, but you on the same plane, not talking to each other, not saying anything to each other. I done played both of y'all against each other. Why do I got to fight when you both want what I got? It's all my fucking image. It's just an image. And when you have the Magna Carta, and then you have the Articles of Confederation, we knew that failed, but then you get into the Constitution, which is now being used to see if it was constitutionally appropriate to impeach a president after he left the office. If you, as an American, don't understand the history of your law, then you, as an American, don't understand where you are. And that, for me, is like, how the fuck can you ask your judicial system, your legislative system, and your executive system to produce policy for you if you don't know what you're asking for?
Yep. And so y'all came in on the back end of a conversation, a good one. Couldn't just end it. So with that being said, we back again. Quan, you in the what you call them? No, you good. So we back, Gilded Sages, with another episode. Another set of reaction videos today. Happy Valentine's Day for all the lovers out there.
Oh, we lovers in the house. We lovers in the house.
So we just gonna go through a little bit of housekeeping first before we go ahead and get started. And we just gonna jump in to the videos and respond to them in the same fashion. If you are with us and watching us, please like the video, share the video. Comment, debate, even if you disagree, we love the engagement because the difference of opinions and perspectives helps sharpen the conversation, helps make it more lively, and helps us actually get to what we always talk about, a consensus. Because it's not just about what I think, it's not just about what Q think, it's not just about what Quan think, it's about what we think in our perspective communities think as well, and even external communities. Jump in, hop in. So with that being said, also check out DC Young Democrats. Go over to our website, dcydes.org. And if you have time, if you want to get politically active, you can engage Gilded Sages, thegildedsages.com, or you can, if you're a Democrat and you want to do that work, go ahead, sign up for DC Young Democrats. Help us out. We need the bodies. We need the people. And again, if you want to remain independent or not a Democrat, Gilded Sages is invested in doing the same type of work. This is just one of many things that we do. And this is just something that, we have conversations, and I think conversations are very powerful, especially when they're not filtered and censored. So with that being said, I don't think there's anything else that I'm leaving out. Oh, go ahead. Yes, check out our white papers. Those are still up on the website. Go check out our Instagram. That's just another way to stay updated on things that we're doing. And I also post events and stuff if y'all want to come to those. So with that being said, now we're finally going to go ahead and jump into these reaction videos. I myself have not seen this one, so you're going to be getting a 100% honest reaction. And the first one that we're going to be touching on is an excerpt from Kenneth Clarke's 1984 interview on kindness and intelligence, where he gives insight on the need for it within our communities. No, within our consumption of information. I apologize. I don't know why that community is stuck in my brain right now.
That's all we talk about. It's goddamn people.
So yeah, go ahead and get yourself together, Quan. Don't put it right there. Don't put it right there.
You can move all that stuff. So.
Yeah. So while Quan go ahead and get ready and do that before we go ahead and start, your laptop is in the room, just to be FYI. Let me pull up my actual Facebook to see if anybody has any comments while you get yourself set up. Do we have anybody or any comments already?
Not as of yet.
Not as of yet. I'm about to check Facebook. Did you want to say anything about this before we jump into these videos?
Yeah.
Cute.
Full disclosure, I've seen these videos before. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Kenneth and Mammy Clarke. Their work, if you know the doll test in which Black kids chose the white doll as the smart one and the black doll as the bad one, they engineered that test. They were doing the Harlem Youth. I love Dr. Kenneth B. Clarke's Dark Ghetto Social Dilemmas. And what's important about this clip is you're going to get my real reaction, my real reaction. You're going to see what's important about this clip. You're just really going to see how important it is to not allow people like myself get away with being intellectually bullies. Because just because I'm intelligent don't mean I'm nice. And you know I say this all the time.
Most intelligent people aren't.
Me
because
being
they're intelligent.
Yes, intelligence says I don't have to be your friend. That's exactly what it says. I can get what I want without being your friend. So,
because people do prioritize skills. So yeah, thank you everybody for the people who are watching on Facebook as well. Again, you can leave a comment. We gonna chop it up, but before we go ahead, we just want to jump into the first video real quick to let y'all hear so we can get started. Let me see, let me play this. Make this bigger for y'all, because I know some of y'all be blind out here.
To me, and I'm perfectly willing. And
what are those for you?
Well, moral basics to me, and I'm perfectly willing to accept my critics' criticism of me as being unrealistic. Moral basics would seem to me to require understanding power, but rejecting the usual form that power takes in our society, and redefining power in terms of moral and social sensitivity. And as one of my heroes, Bertrand Russell, said, garden variety, kindness, garden variety, empathy. Now, religion, and I'm not going to restrict it to just religion, because I would also include academics, are perfectly willing to deal with those concepts.
All right, so for everybody watching, I'm gonna just go ahead and run it back. So we're gonna do it like we did last time. Let everybody, if you was watching, if you missed it a little bit, go ahead. So we're gonna play back. It's just a minute. It's just a minute. One more time.
What are those for you?
Well, moral basics to me, and I'm perfectly willing to accept my critics' criticism of me as being unrealistic. Moral basics would seem to me to require understanding power, but rejecting the usual form that power takes in our society, and redefining power in terms of moral and social sensitivity. And as one of my heroes, Bertrand Russell, said, garden variety, kindness, garden variety, empathy. Now, religion, and I'm not going to restrict it to just religion, because I will also include academics, are perfectly willing to deal with those concepts.
Okay. So y'all heard what he said. Q, since you already saw this, I would love to hear your comments on it, and then you could punt it back over to myself, and then we're going to hit Quan to see what he thought about what he listened to.
I tell people all the time, and I say it to y'all, my Cheerios, my quote, my small circle to keep my heart healthy. Intelligence is predatory. Being intelligent means that I can track you. Intelligence comes from the Latin intelligentsia, which means to understand. Science or scientia, which means knowledge, is amoral. It doesn't care. If I snap my finger, that's information. How you feel about it is how you feel about it. But when you sit back and what Dr. Kenneth Clarke is talking about, because he also talks about the moral schizophrenia of America, is that an intelligent person can create a framework in which I allow you to believe that you are participating in a system that benefits you because I'm able to play a role because I'm intelligent enough to see your blind spots. I'm intelligent enough to know what it is that you don't know. But more importantly, I'm intelligent enough that I give you access to all the information. Because I, as an intelligent being, not necessarily moral, but as an intelligent being can go, you know what, fuck you. Because I know the power is you not knowing. Because someone else who played upon me kept the information from me. So I know the power of information. So we're in this reaction to Dr. Kenneth Clarke. He's really saying that intelligent beings need to understand, yes, you can play that game, but you can't play it for too long. Because what happens is that morality is what gets us together. Morality is what allows for morale, it allows for cohesion, it allows for the things I always talk about that I need inside of my social circles. 3 key components: self-awareness, cooperation, and collaboration. If you don't have those 3 traits, I don't know how your group will work. But Kenneth Clarke is really directing people to say that, yes, you're intelligent, but use your intelligence for the benevolence of other people instead of the malevolence, and the maliciousness of self-aggrandizing. Because there's a lot of intelligent people like, I'm smarter than you. Yeah, I'm smarter than you. Nigga, you don't even know that word. I say cogito ergo sum. Nigga, you don't know what I'm talking about until you get that intelligent person and you show them. And life ain't about being intelligent. Can you fight? And if you can't fight, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I think it's were you done?
Yeah, that's what I was done. That's my punt because you always talk about nigga.
Yeah, and so I think it was very interesting. And what caught my attention was him talking about rejecting power and how it moves. And you mentioned something also that speaks to why I would agree. Because what happens is to your point, people place morality and conflate it with intelligence. And what a lot of people don't, or I think miss within that, is that I'm not always, like you said, doing things to the benefit of you. I say it all of the time in terms of being a noble savage. Because what has to happen is, like you said, people through intelligence, through the restructuring of what we view as intelligent also, I think has eroded that morale of the state of the people, has eroded it to such an extent because, like you said, because it's compiled on so many other bad character traits like narcissism. We live in a capitalistic driven economy that is very heavily individual based at this point, because yes, you can have capitalism and we all know that individuals exist and that's how it operates, but to the extent that we're at now, you spoke on it, there is no cohesion. And we see that cohesion break down. We're seeing it in our political institutions. We're seeing it in labor. We're seeing it manifest itself in all of these different ways because people have not rejected it. People have willingly went into institutions to, like you said, early, I believe. I don't think this was with.
It could have been because we was
Yeah.
going for a break before we came on.
And so you had mentioned about how people are willing to take a job to knowingly undermine a person. People will say, okay, I'm with that because I have to preserve self, but don't understand, like you said, in the conversation about how sustainable it is, it doesn't last long. People, I always say all the time, we're going to come to that head. I know a lot of people don't necessarily want to acknowledge that head. And when I say that head is that there's going to be heavy amounts of friction in America. And I mean that in every single facet, whether we're talking about corporations, we're talking about macro level, micro level family, where we're talking about unit to unit, the house to house, where we're talking about government. On every single level, that friction is going to come to that head because of the philosophy that he's talking about and how we capitulate to it. A lot of people say that I am a rather, I don't fold or I don't give on certain stances. And it's to his point, I don't give on those stances because those stances are to the full detriment, and I mean the full detriment of my own existence. There's certain things you just can't give on. And when he said you have to reject power, especially in how power moves in this particular case, when we're talking about now and placing this theoretical or this conversation into context of what's going on right now, you have to reject it fully.
But don't we have hashtag resist? I'm sorry, that was a dig at the Democrats.
We do.
And I gotta be petty. I gotta be petty. Were you done? Because
I was done.
Oh, so Quan, because I got a rebuttal. I got a question to further the conversation, but I want to hit Quan first.
Okay, so for me, when I heard the clip originally,
Hold on, before I cut you. Everybody who is in the waiting room, we are just going to go around, and then that's when we'll take the call in. So if you could just be patient to let everybody here on the floor get their stances out, and then I'll bring people in to have the discussion and their take on the video and what they thought. So my bad, go ahead, Quan.
I think one of the things that I noticed about the clip when I initially took it was the fact that we have a real problem in society where people want to take being factually correct or the power of facts and equate them to the power of words. And they're two different things. And I think that sometimes intellectuals get into the power of the facts so much to the detriment of the power of their actual words and what they actually do and how they create certain things in
Help me
people.
understand you a little bit more.
So with the power of words, I'll just break that down.
Mm-hmm.
So there's certain things and ways that you can present information that triggers certain things. And if you're not emotionally aware, you can lose what's called the emotional war. So there's the intellectual war that's fought on the factual level, but then there's the emotional war that's fought through the interpretation.
So basically, when I have to package up my words so that people don't get offended.
Exactly.
Okay, but intellectuals use the facts to get the fuck we want. That's why I'm laughing over here. It's like, you know how many wars intellectuals start?
And that's what I'm saying. But the fact that so many people are unaware of the actual tactics of what's being used when you talk factual versus what's being used in the mere words that are being put together. Yeah. Like there's certain games that get played with certain types of facts and rhetorics. Like I study some of these things, like the zero sum, the race to the bottom, certain rhetoric that pins one party against another. Like all of these things are tactics within the power of words. And when you add those words into that mechanism of facts, but when you misrepresent those facts, you're doing it in a way that's causing attention among people. And it's that's what I get from what he's saying, is that when you remove sort of the empathy. Now you're just dealing with just the cold-hearted games that you're playing within the tactics of wordplay and
dog whistle.
Exactly. You're just using these rote tactics to sort of badger people into a schizophrenic, or you're just basically playing those mind games with people when you remove sort of the natural empathy.
So you saying you know how us intellectuals use rhetoric to get the hell?
I mean,
because that's what you're arguing against is rhetoric, basically, because that's all rhetoric really is.
That's what I'm saying, and that's what I hear from him. It's like when you remove sort of that empathy that you kind of use as a buffer, then all you're left with is just the literal definition of scapegoating and what they call it, gaslighting and separatism, and you're just left with those definitions that you can easily just call out with a little bit of education.
Yeah, because I also, as an intellectual, can see when people don't like each other, and I can exploit that. That's why I laugh when people talk about, I say it all the time, people don't like my mind as much as they love my heart, because it's my heart that dictates what it is that comes out of my mouth. But again, we can talk about Hobbes and Locke, Thomas Hobbes, the Leviathan, and John Locke. A lot of people, especially, I'll narrow it down to what Dr. Kenneth Clarke is really talking about with the Black community. A lot of Black people are very Hobbes-like people in the sense of they accept the Leviathan, they believe that the Leviathan or the power should be there to keep them together, the power structure should be there, and that you should submit to the power structure, because if you go on like John Locke and questioning the power structure, then you question the legitimacy of the power to be, or the powers that exist, the power structure.
See, I'm more Brett Hume. He didn't give a fuck.
I'm more
when all that shit fails, you do what you gotta do.
I'm a Neil. I'm Rousseau. I'm a Neil. I'm out in the wild. Like, let people do what they do, because I don't want to be bothered with the bullshit. But to your point, look at Lenin. When he started the revolution, he was an intellectual. People need to understand that. I'm gonna show you just how easy it is to get people. Hi, my name is Quentin Horton, and I'm calling from the Gilded Sages on behalf of the Von Lassane, the founder. And people love that tone. Wherever hey, what's up, nigga? What you doing? My name is Quentin Horton. I'm calling from Gilded Sages. Fuck is up with you, Slim? People don't like the second one. Why? It doesn't read as professional. But the second one is actually far more personable. And it's a person that cares. Whereas, hi, my name is Quentin Horton. It's me putting on the tone, me putting on this intellectual thing, because you, the people, like it. So a lot of people give their power away to the quote unquote intelligent person, away from the intellectual. And his favorite name is Barack Obama. Did Barack Obama not give you the intelligent Black man? Wow, in policy, giving you the political savage.
I'm still torn on the whole. Not even torn. I'm still kind of
You're
taken aback by
that's why.
The idea that, and one, maybe because I feel like I wouldn't necessarily consider intellectuals always aware, because to me, you're talking about an aware person who is willing to go in and exploit the very thing that people buy into. Because again, to your point, it's not so much as, and maybe this is imposter syndrome, it's not so much as maybe I'm intelligent, but rather I watch you.
But intelligent requires you to be aware. Like there's
a
certain level of anxiety that people who are highly intelligent are also prone to anxiety because they're prone to metacognition or thinking about a thought. Mm-hmm. So you have to have a certain level of intelligence to be aware, because other than that, you just don't think it. It's not there. That's when I learned that I was intelligent, because I was complaining. Y'all know how I get in trouble about complaining about shit, and people go like, IG, bro. IG. Pause for a second. It's cool. But you know how people complain about I'm saying things that they don't know about? It's that you have to have a certain level of intelligence to be aware. And intellectuals, and I hold intellectuals to a higher standard, because intellectuals like a lot of shit. So intellectuals, especially the intelligentsia, that crowd of people, their thing is we are more aware than you, so therefore we should be ahead of you.
Like,
Like,
give me like 2 examples of who we would put in the intelligentsia.
Chris Hedges, Dr. Cornel West, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama.
Who about Jordan Peterson?
Jordan Peterson, he counts too. He's more Canadian. Anybody that has an Ivy League degree is supposed to be a part of that intelligentsia. We talk about affirmative action, but we never talk about legacy. We never talk about these kids that get into school because their parents went there.
But that's the thing, and this is where what I was trying to say about, because are they intelligent, or like to your point, did they go through a certain lens and angle so that they can appear?
Because how can I rob you if I don't know how to rob you? How do I not? I'll come to you all, but this is my thing. How do I know to rob you if I don't know you have something valuable? Like me, I walk around with brands all the time that no one knows. It's just as expensive, but no one knows the brand. And because they don't know the brand, it's like, you're not gonna rob me. Whereas someone walking around with a Gucci belt, Louis Vuitton on, is gonna get robbed because people know what Gucci and Louis Vuitton is. Yes, I'm not saying my brands. Not at all.
So it couldn't be greed?
But it also goes into intelligence too. That people like to divorce intelligence from emotions. It's like, no, they're just intelligent people to me are emotional animals, or animals that are way more aware than emotions and are able to use certain emotions to their advantage.
So you don't think that because again, in using legacy, you don't think that in some cases it's just by happenstance. Like, say for example, I just rob you and end up hitting a lick. I didn't necessarily, or I'm in a position that I didn't necessarily work for. Because I guess for me, I'm putting a merit behind intelligent. Like, there's a lot of people who have went through these channels, some who I do believe are actually intelligent, but like, for example, putting Barack Obama in that space, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, are you intelligent because what you did? I would agree, but I don't think he's as intelligent as people think, and as most people think intelligent, if we're basing it off of that, because it will come down to, for me, it's like, look, you've done these things, you were able to pull a lick and rob, but you aren't intelligent enough to understand that what your behavior and what you're doing and how you're going about it isn't necessarily sustainable. So it's like, on one hand, yes, you are intelligent, but does the intelligence have to have like foresight?
I think what you're making is the distinction between intelligent and wise. You're making a distinction between intelligent and wise, because being wise means that you're taking into consideration, you're looking at the long term. And you're looking like, oh, that fits me now, but it won't fit me later. Whereas being intelligent is like, I don't give a shit about anyone else. It's just me. I only care about me and what I like and what I want to do. And that's where the morality comes into it. And that's when you start, that's when Dr. Clarke, that shit is funny. I just want the outtakes. Dr. Clarke starts to talk about the morality of things, because we don't talk about philosophical things. That goes back into having civic discourses. I forgot who was it that came out and said one of the problems that we was having with the elections that we don't teach civics inside of our classrooms. Civics. A number of people who said it. Civics is a conversation about ethics, because civics is asking you, how do you treat everyone else around you? How are you treating the people around you? Going back to when we talk about Hobbes and Locke, the state of nature. I'm pretty sure everyone here is familiar with the state of nature, right? And we talk about the state of nature. And we're talking about the state of nature. I take a more of a Locke view, as the state of nature is kind of like this ambiguous thing that no one knows what to do, but people submit to government because they think that government is going to take care of them.
Like the social contract and all that other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We have those discussions, but if you don't have that discussion about the philosophical and theoretical principles of government, then people don't understand government, because government is all philosophy, it's all theory. People really think when they dial 911, someone has to respond. It's like, do you not know how new that is? That is some real recent shit that we got police. We've been around for ages. Fire departments can go away. Teacher unions can go away. Policing can go away, but we still have society.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't get that. But the intelligent person, the person that's made aware of these things, can get it and protect themselves from it. That's where intelligence is different from morality. Because morality is going and saying, look, people, they cannot give a fuck about none of us because they have enough money to pay other people to give a fuck about them. We have to give a fuck about each other, because if we don't, then we're going to really be at each other's throats just to survive. So we have to hold our leaders accountable, because it's like, you have our collective trust. You have our collective resources, not only to empower and self-aggrandize yourself, but to make sure that we don't fall below a point where people have food insecurity. Because with food insecurity, that chemically changes the brain. Mm-hmm. Now people are just fucking fighting because they're hungry.
Mm-hmm. Hence why we're here.
Because they're hungry. But again, that's intelligent people not going into these institutions and being intelligent and being wise. Because to a certain degree, it makes me laugh because you're asking for the philosopher kings that Plato talks about, how society would best be ruled by people who are wise enough to know what's going on. These motherfuckers don't care. It just threw you off, didn't it? Because I see you sitting over there sitting with it.
Because that's and I hear what you're saying, but it's so unfortunate that we're led by people who aren't really wise. We're led by people who only have enough intelligence to be self-aggrandizing, to be about self, when that fucked up my brain. Because like, what? You need people to survive. If say it's us three and I just shit on y'all, how does that work?
It's called stunting, ain't it?
Not even that, but what's the sustainability in me surviving or us surviving on a macro and a micro level? This is, but you know what? This is why I always say it is going to come to a head, because with that philosophy, with that and how they move, like you just said, it's not sustainable, and it's going to come to a point where, again, as wealth calcifies, poverty will expand. That's a whole different ballgame.
It is.
And to your point, that's why I made sort of that separation, where a lot of the people that you say, you know, go up and matriculate, they have a factual argument that they can argue to be correct, but those people lose the moral and they lose the emotional battle every time, the emotional war. We're seeing it now. A lot of the poor people that are rising up and doing a lot of these things, they come from the fact that a lot of these powerful people who are just using facts against everyone, they're losing the emotional war. Because
who's emotional war?
Well, I would argue society at large.
Okay. We're
losing the emotional war because you have people that are just blatantly killing people with the facts and elementary type of tactics to pin one against the other, or to get people in a mindset that I have to take from you, when really it's a higher sort of power that should be given more, in a sense.
Yeah, that's a complex one. And for the sake of time, we're gonna go into the next clip. I definitely agree with that, but in that survival and human nature, I'm not pit against you, but I am pit against you, because I gotta gladiate my way to the top, the way that in the current system that's set up, and that's unfortunate. But people, like you said, insist on making a right argument as if we aren't in a fucked up world.
We ain't having no calls or nothing.
Nah, everybody dropped out of the call log, and I'm thinking that they were
Zoom.
yeah, because usually people stay. But yeah, if you have any comments on that last clip, you can definitely call in. We about to go into the next clip. I guess I'll give it a few seconds to get my head back together because that just about
All right.
People don't get it. These supposed to be world leaders and shit, man.
They get it. Like, all right. Go ahead. That's enough off. Because I can go on and on about the shit.
You got the thing in the camera.
Huh?
That's in the camera.
Oh shoot, my bad.
All right, so next clip up is what we're going to about to show on our screen. If you can see that right there. So this is a clip from the Black Panther Party. In Stokely Carmichael's speech in Oakland. He gives a speech about the Black community and white acceptance. Whew, man, it's unfortunate we got to keep, being there. So we're going to go ahead.
See, unlike America would have us believe, the greatest problem confronting this country today is not pollution and bad breath. It's black people. It's black people. See, that's just one of the big lies that America tells you and that you go for because you chumps. You go for it. One of the lies that we tell ourselves is that we are making progress. But here his chair is empty. We're not making progress. We tend to equate progress with concessions. We can no longer make that mistake.
Yeah, you gotta run that back.
Yeah, man, that's heavy. That's heavy and concise. Heavy and concise because it's 40 seconds. But it's a lot. He just said a lot.
Unlike America would have us believe, the greatest problem confronting this country today is not pollution and bad breath. It's black people.
And technology.
It's black people.
Fucking work.
See, that's just one of the big lies that America tells you and that you go for because you chumps. You go for it. One of the lies that we tell ourselves is that we are making progress. But here his chair is empty.
What outlet is that?
We're not making progress. We tend to equate progress with concessions. We can no longer make that mistake.
All right. So we heard what he had to say. I'll go ahead, man. It was the biggest thing, though, I think that we need to touch on and that we gotta really think about as a people is the concession, is confusing the concessions with progress. It's unfortunate that we still have this problem today. And let me give you an example. Right now, we just had the administration change over to Joe Biden, right? A lot of people would say that, getting Trump out is some form of progress. A lot of people would say that, his quote unquote black agenda, because I read it, I opened it up, it's a lot of minority, black and brown outside of the title itself. But what he's talking about in concessions is that you can't take $400 billion for, let's say, housing and think that that is progress when you don't have policies in place that don't even alleviate or mitigate predatory lending practices. You can't, like we talked about earlier, you can't say that it's progress because you get to trade on the stock market now, but don't necessarily have the tools and access to be able to compete fairly and be able to compete within scale. So what he's talking about is understanding the difference between getting material resources in a lot of cases that are allocated across a large body of people, which don't have the impact enough to push forward the group. Because from the wealth data, the line is just dead. If you ever saw one of those little, I don't know what the name of them is, but when you want a heart monitor, yep, and you see the lines, Black wealth has been flat since. And what you have to understand in that is that, yes, we've gotten affirmative action, which is a concession. Yes, we've gotten, shit, we ain't got nothing after that.
even with that,
Hold on, let me
Can
anybody think? Because I'm really not joking.
What about what?
Did we get any? What other like policies have we gotten like that was supposed to be like specifically for us after
The crime bill.
He on jokes. He on jokes. The war on drugs.
I'm trying to think early 2000s. Bush ain't Clinton.
Nothing on the same magnitude and scale in which the second civil rights, because I always talk about civil rights in 1866. The second civil rights movement in America.
Nothing.
But I have to laugh at that. But I'll talk when I get a chance to talk. I'll talk.
But with that being said, he's just basically, I think what we have to really start understanding, because even when we get into representative politics and representation, a lot of people get duped on that because that's a concession. That's a person saying, I'll allow one of your people in, but no, they are not going to mess up the flow and mechanics of the actual institutions that we have. That is not progress. If I have to capitulate and castrate myself to be within said institution, that is no progress being made. That means that I'm just chopping off a leg, maiming myself to get access to resources that I need to survive. That doesn't do anything for me or the collective. Yeah, you'll be able to be, get a few extra movie tickets, get some courtside basketball shows, get access to a few, TV stars, entertainers, write a few op-eds, get a little, but in reality, as me and you both know, a lot of our elders, boomers, they retiring poor. A lot of them had to go back to work, which is why there ain't no jobs for younger people. And now we're bringing in a whole slew of other demographics, returning citizens, immigrants, illegal immigrants. It's a hodgepodge, but those are concessions, people. And I want everybody who's coming into this mix to understand that you all are treated the same way. Don't take concessions. Because I see a lot of other groups making the same fundamental mistakes that my people have made in thinking that concessions are progress. What do you have to say about that?
Here's the clear line I make between a concession. A concession is civil rights. That's a concession. Progress is I don't need a black face to care about black people. That's progress. I don't need a man in a room to care about women's health. That's progress. I don't need someone who is trans to care about trans life. That's progress. I don't need a young teenage woman to tell me about her life before I'm willing to ask a young teenage woman how her life is about. That's progress. Progress is Bobby Kennedy getting a call while he's inside of New York. Was he the AG? Was he the AG at the time? I'm not sure. But Bobby getting a call from a resident and actually going out because the resident, he hears that rats are gnawing on the children, and he goes actually out and go like, we got to get this fixed because our citizens have rats chewing on the children. That's progress. We know what progress happens in America. Pow! You get shot, nigga. Whether you Bobby Kennedy, whether you JFK, whether you Malcolm X getting shot by black people, or whether you MLK getting your head blown off because you talking about the Poor People's March.
And nod to the Panther Party, Fred Hampton.
In
his bed.
In his bed. But even that's going even further on the Panther Party. The Panther Party started letting everybody in, and then you had a bunch of black men who was being trashed and snitching, calling it bro. You have a whole lot of people who want to go black power, but don't want to give kids enough money for school so they can eat in schools, because let's talk about these black elites. Let's hold them accountable too. Let's hold their feet to the fire.
They stop, bro. They donate, bro.
Dr. Cornel West, I love Dr. Cornel West because he's famous for calling out the black elites and saying that we don't want no tokenism. We don't need no symbolic relief. We need actual relief. But going to Stokely Carmichael, Stokely, is this the same Stokely that was marching with MLK? That's the same Stokely? Isn't this the same Stokely that was saying fuck that nonviolent shit? We fighting? That's the same Stokely? If we talking about the same Stokely Carmichael, then in that speech, because you can tell his rhetoric is far toned down from when he was younger. That Stokely has seen the other side. He knows why Martin was shot when he started about the Poor People's March. Like I posted on my Facebook the other day, when Martin Luther King started talking about, well, in Montgomery, we could see that the racism, it was kind of apparent. And the people who weren't boycotting the buses were people who rode the buses. So it was kind of easy to organize around that. But in the North, you don't know who your enemy is. You can't see your enemy. So it's much harder for us to organize in the North because you don't have segregation like it was in the South. You can see no Negroes here, or you go Martin Luther King, get your hand out my pocket. I mean, I said Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, because Malcolm X understood that in the North, it's about money. And if you ain't got the damn money to afford motherfucking saying, get your hands out of my pocket, if you can't send your kid to a school in which they're being taught that they have value, instead of being sent to a school to taught that they are a problem, because we don't talk about that in black neighborhoods, how kids go to school and they get labeled the problem. And so that the school can get more funding for the admin, but the admin don't spend their dollars on the kids. There's a lot of black people with PhDs that hustle children. Yeah, I will repeat that because I ain't afraid to fight y'all on the paper. We ain't gotta go to fisticuffs. When we go to fisticuffs, it's going to a whole nother level. I must repeat this though. It's a lot of black people with PhDs that send kids to prison.
If that ain't a word.
So when we start talking about white acceptance, we need to hold our black elders accountable. We need to hold our black friends accountable. We need to hold these black faces accountable for the information that they allow in, because they allow for the concession. And, oh no, don't believe me, Quentin, you just another uppity Negro. Read Alden Morris, A Scholar Denied, talking about W. Du Bois and how Booker T. Washington and the machine used their political position to circumvent black labor and to circumvent black scholars that were saying that black labor has been exploited. And I'm speaking from the Philadelphia Negro 1899 that was done by W. Du Bois. That is over a century old. We have to be accountable for black people who go out in front of white people and say, I am the voice of black people. I can tell you what black people need. Because that's how the concessions come to the black community. And you're told to accept the concession because you're not going to get anything else. And that's when you got to get to the point of, if I'm not getting the concession, if I'm not getting what I need, then why the fuck am I a citizen? Why am I paying taxes? Why am I obeying your rules? There's a such thing as civil disobedience. There's a such thing as saying, I'm not going along with this shit. It don't fit me, it fit you. So until it fit me, until you expand your definition of what it means to be an American citizen, I have a right, and more importantly, I have a duty to protest your concession. I have a duty to protest what you're offering me. I have a duty to stand and say, this is not acceptable. But what we do is that we call that person crazy and send them out into the world.
This is true, man.
You had said
Definitely a duty.
Yeah, as far as that clip, it's a very pointed point that he made. And it's like, when I think about what he's saying in terms of, especially that part when he says, and Huey's not here, it's like,
didn't he get addicted to heroin?
Who, Huey?
Huey P. Newton.
Later on.
Later on.
But that one particular, that's H. Rap Brown. That wasn't
Oh, that was somebody else.
He's in it. But H. Rap Brown was the one that was in the video.
I got you.
Yeah. So for me, it just points to the fact that in order for us to have true black progress, there's a lot of black people that have to lose out and lose everything.
Yeah.
Because, like, literally, there are Black people who champion things like, corrective justice and all of these things. But these are the same Black people, restorative justice. But these were the same Black people who would teach you how to write a document on how to exclude someone or put someone in a different placement or lower someone's value or how to take someone's job away. Like, literally, you have Black people who will undercut your whole existence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Franz Fanon called him the colonized intellectual.
And it's like, when you have that in the race towards progress, it's like, we can't get anywhere unless you go. And I think that's what he was speaking to in the way that we concede, because it's an outward concession, but it's also an intra thing within our own community where we concede to
Colorism. Shit.
that. We concede to, oh, if this child that deserves just as much of an education as the exceptional child isn't doing the right thing, we just gonna boot him out. And now he got to go to a different school versus let's work with our own. Hey, he got some issues, but this kid is still smart. He still deserves an education. You're seeing it right now, where certain kids are going to be behind the screen and other kids are going to be able to come back. And it's like, when you have people that are willing to take the equity away from your own kind, how are we going to get equity from anybody else?
That's the thing about progress. You stop looking at it from certain people and you look at it for the principle.
Mm-hmm.
Progress is principle. Concession is appeasement. And too many people like the policy of appeasement because appeasement is easier, it's quicker. I can give you some Robitussin to stop your cough, but I'm not going to take you out of the environment that gives you the cough. And that's what people don't like it, because it's hard. People want to talk about the boycott. That boycott took over a year to be successful. It took over a year, and it took other Black people, peer pressure, and Black people like, if you take that damn bus, we're going to fuck you up.
Straight fact. Mm-hmm. But you know, niggas living in the NFL, they just got done watching the Super Bowl. But then again, like you said, they're going to be Black Power. Black Power.
When I saw that shit on Empire, I laughed so hard.
What?
They had all Black on, and the whole fist bump, 1960s, what was it, 64 Olympics when he did that? The black leather glove. Whenever I see Hollywood take on the symbolism of Black liberation, I absolutely laugh my ass off, because you read the book, Reconstruction, with Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr., and he has that line in there where he talks about no group of people have ever been liberated through the arts. And it's like, oh no, I'm a hater though. But he comes from Harvard, but I'm just a hater.
But that's where I knew, and I wouldn't even, that's true. The even worse part about it, I'll say, is that we don't control the narrative of what comes out. Because that's why I wasn't enthused about that whole, I love Fred Hampton, but I wasn't enthused about the whole
film.
Black Judas or whatever.
I'm not watching.
Just off of the strip that I know America can't give you full-throated Fred Hampton, because I know they're going to do the whole unity thing. And this is where I tell people I don't necessarily talk about unity in the way that people want, because I know it gets co-opted. Because even with MLK, suffered the same thing. It's like people only want to talk about it up until a certain point. Because with Fred Hampton, as well as MLK, as well as Malcolm X even, like, yeah, they were talking about we do have to work with all people, with the understanding that these people are moving in monolithic form with us. Because again, it can't be you doing just kind of what you want. Because, like, to your point, that's where we get co-opted movies based on, you got history being based on true events, which is very deceptive, because you have people who will argue for it and be like, oh, well, they had the creative license. And it's like, but it's history. And what happens is because we also already, this has been compounded on top of the issue with America intentionally rewriting history, intentionally leaving out things, intentionally creating different narratives. You're now also just compounding on top of that. No, we have to put a moratorium on all of this until we get to the actual truth, what the truth is. Until we get to what the truth is, there should be no more iterations of the truth. What do you mean? People are already too confused about what they don't even know. It's so dangerous now because
they killed Socrates for telling the truth.
Yeah,
I know.
They killed niggas.
They killed everybody.
And I do you one better.
I'm not with them.
Even to bring up your point, I'm gonna let you go. But to bring up your point, even when you look at the Noam Chomsky's, even when you look at the Chris Hedges, and as much as I don't like the fake white hope, Bernie Sanders,
the fake white hope,
man,
people made a joke about the fact that he just showed up and he was the outsider. The issue that I had with that is that we're not talking about a man who didn't have his own candidacy. At the same time, this man was running. Y'all didn't get behind it. That's the only difference.
Who said that Bernie said he want to be treated like a Ralph Nader?
Chris Hedges.
It was Chris?
It's a bunch of people now.
No, but I seen that interview.
It was Chris.
It was Chris.
And he moved away from Bernie for that.
Yeah, I tell people I voted for Bernie. What was I forget the year? The election before when Donna Brazile cheated the man out of the.
Donna Brazile. This is to the GOP.
Nah, she went on Fox though. Look,
that's the GOP.
Yeah, true, but
it was just fun. I use Fox.
They are their apparatus.
I use Fox to see what CNN not talking about, and I use CNN to see what Fox is not talking about.
True.
And then I use the international to see what the fuck American not talking about.
Yeah, it's like ESPN and Fox Sports. Pretty much, that's how they run.
Man.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm smiling hard, and it's like this conversation is not a smiling conversation, but it's just me laughing because. Until Americans have an appetite for the truth, they will keep being sold.
Yeah.
But just to get back to your point, so in the class that I'm in, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, so we're doing history.
Keep that thing back.
And
come with your hands. So.
Oh,
look, the hands are reaching.
And the thing is that we're on the American Revolutionary War. So what they're doing is they're emphasizing the Boston Massacre and the white person that got shot first in the Boston Massacre, as opposed to Crispus Attucks being the first to die and sort of spark off that whole American mindset of revolution. And it's like, wow, in Black History Month, we're not even going to mention Crispus Attucks at all.
No, we don't mention Fannie Lou Hamer. We don't mention Shirley Chisholm.
But like that's a fact. And you just like, okay, the Boston Massacre did happen, but that's not what sparked it off. How did that move from?
That's the line through omission.
But how did we just move magically from this to now the Boston Massacre being the thing that?
This nigga gotta be God. You gotta tell me. But you saying that, but we didn't even have to be. And just in case I want to say we commit an anachronism, meaning that we're taking something, our morality, and putting out of time. I want to see how they do that because I most likely said it wrong. But anyway, if we're creating an anachronism, meaning that we're taking our morality and place it back in time, let's put shit in time. Thomas Jefferson, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was a nobleman, right?
Mm-hmm.
From Virginia, right? He had money and slaves, right? He wrote in the Article of Confederation how slavery is wrong, right? They told his ass to take it out, didn't it? All right. That's how America go. You fucking with the money, shut up. In a story, you fucking with the money. Shh. Look at literally right now. Oh my bad.
No, I said bang bang.
Oh yeah, it is bang 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 bang. Because right now, people, technology is literally spying on them.
Mm.
We are having to fight corporations literally for our privacy. because the government and the Constitution does not protect you against private citizens, it protects you against the government.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh, the Constitution isn't like this document or like the Ten Commandments and the tablets. It isn't like they walked up a mountain and decided that they saw a burning bush and God wrote inside a goddamn lightning what's not supposed to happen. It was a bunch of rich white men who got in the same goddamn room. I was like, how the fuck we want to protect ourselves? How we want to finance this? Because King George III is telling us we gotta pay taxes, and I don't agree with this shit. So I want to get my own. How do I get my own? And James Madison, like, it's okay. We can make sure that everybody got their own. But we got to understand there's an Oakland minority. And if we allow the masses to come against the Oakland minority, they're going to take all our shit. So I want people to get into that framework and understanding that in America, apocryphal stories or stories that don't have any historical truth, as long as they're popular, is what goes. And then people are like, oh, we don't know our Black history. White kids don't know their history either.
Man, that's why they don't. That's where the disconnect is, and that's what people don't understand. It's like, son, no, America at whole was sold on falsehoods. Both sides. One side was getting fed one thing, and then the other side was getting fed another. And the only people who really understood it, again, going back to the conversation we was having earlier about all of those people coming up in the roaring 20s, all of these institutions, it's the same people. And you say it all the time, it's legacy. And when because people like to say, well, oh, those people are not, they train their kids. You talking about code? Them niggas got code. And if you break code, the consequences is death. Or jail. Or social exile.
Or like they do white women, or they used to do white women, insane asylums. She crazy. She gotta go. Then people think that she's a joke. It's like, no. They literally used to take white women who would speak against the shit and like, no, she crazy. Get her out of here. People think this shit's a joke. It's like, no, it's very real. And if you don't accept that what we call white people are poor people who adopted the ideology to never be poor again, I don't think you really accept that the framework of racism keeps everyone limited and everyone from progress. That's why I want to get away from white and Black, but that's me being idealistic.
Very, very. We're not idealistic. We're going to be there. Hopefully before. We're not in our lifetime. But with all that being said, man, we wanted to bring y'all an early show. Y'all go ahead on this good Saturday evening. Enjoy yourselves. Show some lovers. Show y'all lovers some attention. Because we can't have Black anything without Black family. Black family is first. If we don't get the families together, we ain't going nowhere. We ain't doing nothing. We gotta come together. I be talking, look, and you gotta talk shit to your family people. If you doing the right thing, you gotta get them on board. You gotta nudge them. I know they be like, oh, you can't do this. Everybody can't be like you. You gotta keep going. I know it's hard. Sometimes you may become the leper, but this is what we are for. We are family outside of a family of exile, because we just like telling the truth.
Exile.
That's funny. We Cassandras. That is a whole term.
Because again, nobody like to hear the truth. Everybody want to walk around with 6-packs and summer bods, but don't want to do the work. Everybody want to be 6 figures, but don't want to do the work. Everybody want to shortcut everything.
Man.
And
I can't get a subscription to success, nigga.
no. And we ain't gonna get community without families. It's building blocks. People giving me like, oh, you can't say there's no Black community. It ain't one. Where the Black families at? Where are they?
Yo.
Because even when we talk about non-romantic families, most people's families don't even gather no more like niggas used to do back in the day.
Yeah, Big Mama dead.
It's not even just Big Mama, bro. Like, I watched that crack documentary.
Oh, on Netflix?
Netflix?
I gotta watch that, John.
Man, remember I was talking about doing no crack papers?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going ham on that shit. So
It's
like,
a wild thing.
It's a wild thing, but it's like, you know, we war eating whatever. And how especially because I got a boomer mama. She be talking about how they used to have fruit trees and all this other shit. I literally told her the other day, it's like, I do not know in my lifetime what it means to be in a community without addicts.
I don't.
Addiction is normal to me. And for older people, like, it's like, but y'all did it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Addiction is absolutely normal to me. I can tell you on PCP. I can tell you if you on coke. I can tell you if you on crack. I can tell you if you on Xannies. It's like, no, nigga, I can look and tell.
Yeah, that's that dipper right there.
Violence. Like, you can tell the fireworks from the fucking gunshots. Some people know the Magnum from the damn 30.
And how far away it was.
Exactly. Like,
that's some toxic shit.
They didn't grow up with that, though.
They don't know it. To them, they don't know it. Dapper Dan talked about it on Breakfast Club, about how his generation was the last generation that didn't grow up with addiction. They grew up in the slums, but they didn't have addiction. That's why when we talk about black people and the next white people and we some stuff, I'm going from the slums.
Shameless plug.
Fuck the shame. This is our platform. Ain't no shame over here. But anyway, we're going from the slums and how white people got their projects, white middle class people got their projects, while we were still in slums. Then we went from slums to ghettos. Then we went from ghettos to hoods. After we came from the plantation. So when we started talking about black community, it was like we had a black Wall Street, but it was like, these niggas got money. Kill them.
And that's where you know what? Because we finished now. If y'all want to hang out with us for this last few minutes while we just on camera. But it's crazy. Oh, like the video, share the video, comment. Because now I'm just kind of
we just in it.
Yeah. But it's crazy though, because people like to still think that certain things are like a valuable option, but they aren't though. Like even with for example, going back to the stock market thing, right? Why would y'all keep playing into a system, a market, an infrastructure that one was already exploiting you? And then they just showed y'all in the open, like no conspiracy, in the open, like no nigga, you're not gonna beat us at our own game.
They told the SEC cut this out. They told Robert Hood cut this out.
And
he got on TV and said it. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but that's just not a good business move for us.
And it's so funny because I'm watching politicians that are supposed to be for the people. They protecting them niggas. Like,
yeah.
And listen, what are you doing? You supposed to be for the people.
What did I say? when you look at people, the first question, when you talk about Washington or the Beltway, whatever you want to characterize it at, who pockets you in? Who pockets you in?
What budget are you on?
Because in the end, all of those speaking fees and all of that stuff that people be getting, I need a return on that investment. Because again, like I always say, nobody is that great of a speaker. Nobody. And I'm not saying that people can't be great speakers. They're great. As much as I critique Obama, I'll never call him a bad speaker. The man can speak his ass off. But
he is a great orator.
Very great orator. But again, nothing justifies $1 million or $400,000 in speaking fees, bro. Stop it. Maybe 100K tops, 200K tops. I get you.
No, let's give Michelle Alexander that money. Let's give Kimberly Crenshaw that money. Let's give Letitia James that money.
They don't influence policy. That's the difference. Or I'll take that back. They do, because academia should inform policy, but he gets it because again, they didn't cut out certain channels because that cognitive dissonance. And again, academia, well, I'll say they should not have stake in these fights, but they tend to be more objective. I'll say that.
I'm laughing because I look at graduate students who had their papers stolen from professors, how these professors at their head of departments be screwing people over, how admins are horrible damn near everywhere you go. But that's just me. And I'm going to say some of this for off the camera because I need a job.
Hey, listen, you out here serving bad people.
I'm serving bad people. You mean I'm serving Americans?
Go to GMI Utility Select Challenge, type in SS. This is for Maker Taylor. But why is that relevant or important to the power of the empowerment of Blacks?
What's important?
We have to, I'm trying to look at when the comment was made. Why is it relevant to important or important to the power of empowerment of Blacks? We have to internally deal with our shit. Then we can be all, then we can be all we can all lead the
No, that's not true because Black people are still human.
It says no, y'all, nope, y'all better lead them niggas where they at and find your tribe. I love the truth in them right here. What is and can be. I agree. I'm trying to still figure out the
Time span.
no, just
on here it say 8 minutes ago, well 9 minutes ago.
because it says we have to internally deal with our shit. I agree that we do have to internally deal with our affairs, but I think also we have to know and get to a point where we call people out in the open, because some of these affairs have to be dealt with in the open to validate them. Because what happens when you have and handle all of your affairs behind closed doors, especially politically, people can deny it. And when they have public opinion and public favor, it becomes a dicey situation. So some things have to be dealt with in the open, especially when you're talking about public figures, because they're public figures. The critiques and the issues, I don't care whether you're Black, white, or whatever, have to be, I'm not waiting until I get behind a closed door to speak to a Black politician to critique them. I'll probably never meet Barack Obama or have that level of access to sit and actually have a conversation with him about policy. No, you use your voice. But in terms of like family macro level, I do agree. Like we can have these conversations. We all know, like we don't have every conversation on front of the camera because people have to be up to speed first for some of these conversations because they're very, very sensitive. And in cancel culture, we can get canceled very easily, especially because we Black men too. We don't have no leverage of the patriarchy.
I just.
But I'm in the intersection of fat, so maybe that counts.
No, boy, your Black men, your Black maleness trumps all of that. You don't get the benefit of intersectionality. That's why I always say the buck stop. When it comes down to it, it stops here.
But you get to here's what it is with the intersectionality and the intersectional branch. As a Black straight cis male, your tone is going to be policed and your ideologies are going to be heavily scrutinized. However, I've also experienced in those sections people who want to speak against their own groups, but again, they're being silenced.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when I brought up Kimberly Crenshaw, because critical race theory, with intersectionality comes out of, also has an element called target universalism. And why I want for the next thing to do, we do Michelle Alexander when she spoke to Chicago University, and because Michelle Alexander herself talks about how she didn't believe Black men and how she didn't believe the things that were happening until she saw for herself. Yeah, watch that joint. She had her own experience. It was like, it was a Black man that came to her and that was telling her like they were getting every young Black male in my community as teenagers. And that's when I say the worst thing in America to be is a young Black man who doesn't read from the ages of 12 to 21. Because if you look at our criminal records and the way people get criminal records, it's mostly young Black men from the ages of 12 to 21. The worst thing to be in America is a young Black woman who is attractive from the ages of 12 to 21. Why? Because you're the most impressionable at that point in time. You no longer going to talk to your parents. But back to the intersectional thing. It's going to take for the LGBTQIA plus community, it's going to take brown and POCs. It's going to take all of the people who think that they're going to be inside of corporate America and leading corporate America to face the reality of like